Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy. We're on the start of the week session for February 7th of 2021. This session was not recorded live as usual, simply because we had the Super Bowl to contend with, and I do not miss my Super Bowl. It's my one habit every year. So I'm recording this very late. In fact, I can already tell you that the Buccaneers won by pretty much a landslide, and they're the new Super Bowl champions for 2021. But be that as it may, I didn't want to let the week kick off without recording a start of the week session. So here we go. We're going to be going through our usual agenda, look at the prior week, our currency strength meter, and I actually came up with a new format. Fundamental announcements for the week, and I can tell you right now, there are none that we will be trading. A look at the major pairs on the dailies, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting with the ledgers, on the long term, we had another good week, another gain of about 10% on realized trade. So we're coming back up to where we were before we had a bit of a drawdown on this account as well. So we're up again. And well, that's where we are. We have, or we had 4 trades open as the week ended. Not sure if they are still open as I write this, haven't checked. USD CAD, Kiwi dollar, pound JPY, and pound Aussie. Of those, the pound JPY was carrying the most profit, close to 250 last I checked. And sorry, USD CAD and Kiwi dollar, the dollar pairs, they had been very negative throughout the week, and they came back all but not quite to break even as the week ended. So we'll have to see how the new week kicks off and see what we're going to get there. Intermediate term ledger, also a very small gain. I think a couple of trades there in our favor. The only one opened during the week itself was the Euro New Zealand, and that one did take us out at a very small profit. And the short-term account, we had a dismal week. We had multiple trades close against that, high stop losses. So we're underwater right now on the short term. But again, in a very volatile market, these things are going to happen. And the short-term account, of course, is susceptible to these short-term vagaries, I guess we should call them. So we live to try again. Notes and opportunities for improvement. The week was very bouncy. There was a lot of sideways movement. There was a lot of up and down as the market moved sideways regardless. As mentioned, we do continue to make progress on the intermediate and long-term accounts, and the short-term account did take a hit last week. Relative strength meter, and as I mentioned, I changed it. I was never happy with the format that I had been using that was forced on me because my source for this information canceled the the report where I was getting it from. So I had to look for an alternative. This one looks a little bit more like what we were used to seeing back in the day. The only problem is this is a weekly, and I have not been able to get the corresponding monthly, but the weekly is good enough. We can see that for the week, the dollar was slightly up, the euro was very down. Pound, Kiwi, Canadian, Aussie, all up to some degree. Big loser was the Swiss franc, followed by the yen. And the yen, as I mentioned throughout the week, weakening very strongly, and no real reason why. It just simply is. And presumably when there is no reason why, it will stop at some point, probably come back with a vengeance. Fundamental announcements for the week, none that will be live traded. We've got 6 high impact announcements on the calendar, but they are CPIs, manufacturing production, and gross domestic product, none of which I'm in the habit of trading live. So it's going to be a very restful week since I don't have to get up at unheard of times in the morning to trade these. Commodities, oil shooting up. Oil is now at the highest it's been in a year, getting close to the pre-COVID levels of 60 something. And this is a good thing. It shows that there is quite a bit of potential on the currencies that are correlated to oil, specifically the Canadian. And we now have, as I said, a higher high. It's finally breached 55, ending the week just above. And of course, eagerly waiting to see if that will continue or if we're going to have some sort of pullback. Major pairs, the euro dollar is very, very sluggish. We had a bearish week on the euro dollar. Indeed, the dollar pretty much was bullish throughout the week, doing a little bit of a recovery. And that has been going on and off for a while now. But it did find support on Thursday, and on Friday started coming back up, cleared the trend line again, and seems to be trying to make its way up the Ichimoku cloud yet again. Too soon to tell what's going to happen, but I did not expect any sort of dollar strength. And indeed, that's why we took a hit on the short-term account. This was out of the blue, but it looks like things are returning to normal. Kiwi dollar, the exception or one of them on the dollar pairs, it went up, especially Thursday into Friday. And the rest of the week, it wasn't all that bearish, but it still dropped. And it is ending the week pretty much where it started, so more sideways than anything else, but a nice bit of recovery towards the end of the week. Sorry. USD/JPY, and I mentioned this before, the yen weakening for no good reason at all, even against the dollar. So we see a breakout of that trend line and a test of the next level of resistance. And on Friday, it started dropping again. So we'll have to see if this is a reversal and a trip to the bottom, in which case it's very tradable. So stay tuned. We'll probably review this Monday evening when we do our first live trading of the week. USD Canadian, a very sideways week, but ending the week on a bearish slant. So we're seeing a little bit of Canadian strength against the dollar as the week ended, but overall more a flat movement than anything else. USD Swiss, much like the USD JPY, it moved into Swiss weakness against the dollar, cleared at least one level of resistance and got stopped at the second, and Friday started coming down again. I'm very skeptical with Friday movements because Friday is a retrace day as people get out of the market, take their lumps or take their profit and go off for the weekend. Not everybody stays in trades throughout the weekend. So you have a lot of trades being closed out, and of course that tends to reverse the market on Fridays, and that is part of what we're seeing, of course, is people getting out, but not sure if the USD Swiss has really found resistance and we're going to see a trip to the bottom, or if it was just a Friday retrace. Aussie dollar, a very, very flat week, except for Friday when it started going up again. And as I said, part of it is retrace Friday, but this was also a pretty significant move for a final day of the week, and we'll have to see if it continues. Kiwi dollar, sideways. Nothing else you can say about it. It was really sideways throughout the week and did not end higher or lower than where it pretty much began. So it's just hanging out sideways, not doing much of anything. But on the flip side of that, or I would say the positive here, is that support is holding. It's not breaking that trend line. And that means that there's a pretty good opportunity for it to continue going up. Aussie Canadian, very bearish week, especially Tuesday, and then a very slow recovery accelerating on Friday to end up the week pretty much where it began. So ultimately flat, but as I mentioned in an earlier slide, it was a very bouncy week. So this is one of those pairs that went in both directions and actually made some pretty big movements, even if the net change was close to zero. Euro Swiss, we're ignoring, and well, it's pretty much in a sideways pattern and not giving anything for us to latch onto, so we'll continue ignoring it. Euro pound breaking the next to last level of support, and then on Friday popping back up, couldn't clear the trend line. And again, it's too soon to tell what's going to happen ultimately. I did not take this trade even though I wanted to, simply because there were not enough pips as potential for a trade, but it's still a good short. Euro JPY, bearish week except for Friday when it came right back up to where it began the week. So another one that was ultimately flat, but with very, very big movements throughout the week, and is still just shy of the topmost level of resistance. Have to see if we get either a bounce or a piercing of this resistance at the very top. Euro Canadian also hitting support, very, very bearish movement for the week. And even though on Friday it tried to come back up, it didn't really quite manage it. It barely impinged on Thursday's candle. So we're waiting to see if the sideways channel holds, and we're going to get a test of the resistance either around the middle of the channel or the top, either way, or if we will see a piercing of support and a trip to the bottom. Pound JPY breaking the top. We've been waiting for this for quite a while. We're in this trade. We're at profit. And of course, we're hoping it continues going up and taking us into even bigger profit. Aussie JPY trying to break the top on Friday. It actually closed above. But until we have another candle closing above that line, it's still not a break, at least not a confirmed break. Euro New Zealand breaking support as well. This one is a confirmed break. It broke on Tuesday, then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday continued below that support, even though it did bounce off that new bottom that was created on Thursday. So we see that it ended up almost where Wednesday began, but it still had Monday and Tuesday as extremely bearish days, and it could not even come close to impinging on that. Pound Canadian, a little bit erratic. So we had a drop for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then just as quickly came back up on Thursday and then came slightly down on Friday. So not a whole lot there. We're waiting for it to break the top or bounce. And that's it. Pound Swiss breaking the top. It was a really good week for the Pound Swiss. So it broke the top, just kept going. So we had 4 days of sustained bullish movement and then a slight retrace on Friday, eagerly awaiting to see what the week provides. We are in this trade as well and happily in it. So we'll see where it takes us. And last but not least, the pound Aussie, a very sideways week with a drop on Friday to end the week pretty much where it began. So no net movement, but it did do quite a lot intra-week, both up and down, which had us at profit and then at a loss at any given time. Our trade on the pound Aussie, or I should say our trades, are meant to be long-term, so there's no concern there. We'll just hold on until they fulfill, or they prove that the concept was wrong. That is it for the charts this week, folks. Setups we see in progress as the week begins. The pound pairs, of course, mostly continuing their recovery. Pound Aussie is probably the exception. Well, pound Canadian as well. The dollar pairs, the dollar continuing to lose ground weekly, but had a somewhat bullish to flat week. So didn't move much net for the week, but certainly didn't give up any more ground. The Australian pairs, the Aussie is at an extreme point. We're still looking for either a breakout or a bounce, either one of these imminent. The yen pairs, the yen still weak for no good reason, and I put a question mark there because I have not been able to find a good reason for the yen to be weak. If anybody knows of something I don't, please do let me know. And last but not least, the Canadian pairs. The Canadian was showing strength a couple of weeks back and now went back to mostly sideways or struggling, depending on the pair we look at. That is it for our presentation this week for start of the week. And my final words here are regarding timeframes. When you're trading the market, you must be very aware of your time frame. Your time frame is going to determine your risk, your targets, how long you expect to stay in the trade, and a lot of other stuff that are important to maintaining trades open and profitable. I see a lot of short-term traders that think they're trading long-term just because they keep trades open for weeks or whatever, and vice versa, long-term traders that are really scalping. You cannot open a long-term trade and give it a 50 pip stop loss and not expect to be taken out. A 50 pip stop loss on the long-term trade is nothing. When I do a long-term trade, I usually start with 200 to 300 pips worth of stop loss. If you don't have the appetite for that kind of risk, you shouldn't be taking those kinds of trades. It's really that simple. Nobody's forcing you. You have to know yourself as a trader and know your time frame too. You might not be trading every single time frame, not just because of the risk involved, or many other reasons. Maybe you're a guy who likes to get out on Fridays and just be all cash for the weekends. Well, you're never going to be long term, are you? There's nothing wrong with that. There's ways to make money on all time frames, provided you know what you're doing and you know yourself and your time frame. So that is my parting message for this start of week. And that will be it for us today. I'm not going to ask if there are any questions because I am here alone on purpose, as I was watching the Super Bowl and I had not decided what time I was going to do this. But if you do have any questions, by all means, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to reply. That's it for us this week. We'll be back on Monday with our first trading session. Thank you very much and talk to you guys soon. Andy Pedraza signing out for Special Effects Academy. Thank you.